Schaefer, and today I'm going to show you how to wire up receptacles in a commercial installation, meaning I'm using EMT pipe and steel boxes to run my electrical. If you want to see the video on how to install the pipe and the boxes, click on this link right here and that'll take you over there. Otherwise, stick around and I'm going to show you how to properly install receptacles and how to properly do all the wiring for it. Okay, so I'm going to pull my wires through my pipe now, and we're using spooled wire on a spool, not Romex. If you're pulling wire through studs, holes in the studs, that's when you use Romex. But you don't want Romex out exposed where it could get damaged. So when you have to run your circuits in exposed locations, like on top of the brick, that's when you use pipe, not Romex. Anyway, we're using wire off of spools to make it a little bit easier to work with. I got one of these wire caddies. I think it was only like $13 or so it's definitely a good investment because it'll save you a lot of headache when you're spooling off several wires at once. What I'm doing is I'm running two circuits, a red, a black. Those are the hots. They can share neutral as long as I put a breaker tie on your panel. Every other spot is a different phase, so it goes A, B, A, B, A, B. If you use those dual twin breakers, then each breaker is going to be AA, BB, AA, BB. So you cannot use a black and a red on AA. You have to skip one and start at the second A and go AB and tie those together. Since there's only 4 wires, oh, and I have my ground. You always have one ground. So this is called a boat. Well, this is called a boat with ground. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bend each one into a little tip like this. And that's going to help me fish it through the pipe. Or you could tape them all together and run them that way. If you have a long pipe with a lot of bends, it might be a little difficult to push the wire through, so you might want to use a fish tape, or you can run one wire through and then use that to pull the rest of the wires through. So a sacrificial wire basically. So I'm going to push these through and then we'll get going on wiring stuff up. Okay, so now to get this set up, and this is really great, just how it is, because we can just take this over to our box and we can plug everything together and put it on and we're done. We don't have to fool with any of this stuff hanging out of the box. We can just do it right here at the comfort of our own workbench. First thing I'm going to do is I've got my pigtails here, and as you can see, all of my pigtails are about the length of the wire strippers. Since I have 2 circuits coming into each box, and each receptacle is going to be on a different circuit, I have my red and my black. And we're going to snip one end a little long, and we're going to bend a hook on it. Then on the other end, we're going to cut it a little bit shorter because it's going inside of our Wago or wire nut. Now if you're using wire nuts, you could cut these a little bit longer. You just don't want them so long that they'd stick out of the wire nut. You don't want to see copper after you put the wire nut on. So now that I have all my pigtails done, we'll start attaching them to the receptacles. Now when you put the hook on, you want to make sure that the hook goes clockwise, because that's what direction the screw is going to turn when you tighten it. Okay, we're going to do that to both. Now we're going to put a neutral on both. So on your receptacles you're going to have gold screws, you're going to have silver screws. The silver screws are always neutral. The neutral is always on the same side as the ground. And again, your hook is going to go clockwise. And I'm going to go ahead and screw this other screw in just so it's not sticking out. And now I'm going to put one of the hots, so I'm going to put the black on here. Okay, so now that one's done. Now that we're using this kind of lid, we need to get rid of the screws and the mouse ears. If you're using a mud ring, because you're putting drywall over it, or if you've got a plastic box, You do not want to remove any of these things. This is just for this kind of lid. And to do that, I'm going to use my lineman's. Just going to snip the ears off. Oop. And pull the screw out. Okay. The last thing that we're going to do to these before we put them on the lid is we're going to wrap them with electrical tape. And the reason I'm doing this is because it's a metal box for one, and there's two of them in there. So there's a chance that in the future, if you ever need to service this box, if you ever need to open it up to pull more wires or to change out one of the receptacles and you forget to turn the power off, which you shouldn't do, you won't accidentally touch those or touch them up against the metal box or against each other. It's just a safety precaution to wrap it with tape. So now they're done. Looking good. So now we're going to put them in our lid. Now, because I've got two circuits, the reason I've got two circuits in each box is because I want to be able to use two tools at once without blowing the fuse. So whether I'm using two tools that are plugged into the same box or two tools that are plugged into different boxes, I want to know that one circuit is always on the right side and the other circuit's always on the left side. So I'm always going to put phase B, or the red wire, on the right side. So basically I'm just going to hold the nut. You can see the nut there, it's really little. I'm just going to press it up against the back of the hole. And then I'm going to set the screw in there. Turn it a little bit, get it started. Finish it with a screwdriver. It's pretty easy. I know it's more difficult than doing it the lazy way and just putting the screw here without a nut. But this is going to hold onto that receptacle really well. And so if you're constantly plugging stuff in and out, you know that having trouble holding onto this little guy, you know that your receptacle isn't going to go anywhere. It'll also handle impact a lot better that way too, if you accidentally bump it with a board or a tool or something. Okay, so now I've got a beautiful receptacle lid with pigtails and everything. I got two of them ready to rock and roll. Okay, so as you can see, I've got all my wires pulled in. I've got a red, a black, a white, and a green coming in, and same thing going out. And all I need now, because we're using a metal box, I need to ground it. And I'm just noticing that this box was one of the existing boxes that I'm reusing, and it does not have a place to screw in a ground screw. So I get to use this little clip thing. Now, any newer box that you get will have a hole in the back that's raised so that you can, and it'll be threaded so you can screw a ground screw into the back with a ground pigtail. I've got them all in there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of get them all kind of uniform, so kind of shove them back to the back and bend a little 90 on them. They're pretty much the right length. I kind of want them about as long as my wire strippers, just like the pigtails. So now I'm just going to go around and trim all the wires. So y'all are probably wondering what a Wago is. This is a Wago, and it's basically a push-in. And unlike the push-ins on the back of the devices, you can actually pull the wires back out of this. You just kind of wiggle them back and forth and pull them out. And these can be reused a few times, but they start to get kind of loose if you use them too often. So I'm going to use a Wago to connect the neutrals, and I'm going to put one on the red and one on the black. These Wagos can take up to 4 wires, but I have 5 grounds, so I'm not going to use them for the grounds. I'm going to use a wire nut. So now we're going to take our nice devices here that we made, and I'm going to kind of bend these grounds like this and put them all together. This part is a little difficult because there's 5 wires that gotta go together. And I'm going to use my linemen's, and you're going to kind of just push them all, make sure they're all kind of the same length. There's enough copper on all of them, and we're going to twist those together. Now a lazy electrician would just throw a wire nut on there and hope that they're all going to stay. But if you want to do it the right way, go ahead and twist them together first, then put the wire nut on there. That way you're guaranteed that none of them will slip out. And one wire nut will suffice. And you know those aren't going anywhere. Okay, now I've got to do my neutrals. So we'll stick both neutrals in the neutral wire nut or Wago. And again, if you were using wire nuts instead of Wagos, I would do the same thing you do with the ground. Twist them together. The Wagos just makes it really easy. And I don't think that the Wago is necessarily the lazy way to do it, because there's nothing wrong with using a Wago. It doesn't affect the craftsmanship of what's happening. So you can see I've got my ground attached to the box. And like I said, sometimes there will be a hole in the back that you can, it kind of looks like a nipple that you can screw it to. I recommend that. If you, boxes that you buy nowadays will have that. These are older boxes. So I've got all my grounds together, and I've got the red, black, and neutral. And they're all attached to the back appropriately with our hooks. So nothing is going to go anywhere. However, now these Wagos are used. I salvaged them from a demo. So there is a chance that they could have been a little loose. So as I cram the wires in here, I just want to keep an eye on those Wagos and make sure that nothing pops out. But I want to try to keep things as organized as possible. So it's pretty well organized, and it's not just a nest of crap. The final step is screwing the lid on, and you just want to make sure that there aren't any wires right behind where you're going to screw it in. I did that once before. Fortunately, it was in my parents' house in their crawl space, and the screw pinched a wire, and when we flipped the breaker, it blew up. So just make sure that the wires are out of the way. There we go. Look at how strong that is. That is a commercial grade receptacle if I've ever seen one. So now I can plug in my dust collector here and my joiner here, and they're on two different circuits. So there's no way that the combined amperage could trip a breaker. Now they're smaller tools, so they could probably be on the same circuit without worrying about tripping a breaker. But if you have bigger machines, it's definitely, you can see how this would be convenient to have two different circuits at the same location, or even at several different locations. If my dust collection is on the other side of the room, I know that if I plug it on the right side and I plug my joiner in on the left side over here, that they're on different circuits. Now if you're just running one circuit, I would still do the pigtails, and you can wire up so you have, each receptacle would have a black wire on it if there's only one circuit, or just a red wire on both. And you would pigtail those and tie those together just like you do with the neutrals, where you tie them all in and it passes through. So even if you were to remove these devices, or if they blew up, or if they burned out or whatever, everything downstream will still operate just fine. That's the proper way to install receptacles in a commercial setting. I hope this was helpful. Again, if you want to see how to install the pipe and the boxes, just click on this link right here and that'll take you over there. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to the channel, and I will see you guys in the next video.
The Log Furniture How-To, the most all-inclusive site on the net for log and rustic furniture, fixtures, and decor. That's logfurniturehow2.com.